right, if you're a newer creator and you feel like your videos are lacking some visual appeal, hang with me for the next 10 minutes because I'm going to share two simple CapCut editing tips that I use all the time that you can steal right now to level up your edits and keep your viewers watching for longer. One of the most effective ways to change up what might otherwise be a fairly boring, static talking headshot like this one here is to use tip number one, split screens. Split screens are a great way to add some movement, aid in visual storytelling, and even reinforce certain key points that you want your audience to know. Now, what's great about split screens is that you can do them in a variety of ways. You can do A-roll and B-roll. You can do A-roll plus text, and you can even do B-roll plus text. Okay, so we're going to deconstruct both of these scenarios here. We have B-roll and A-roll with a vertical slanted line, and then we have text and A-roll with a split down the middle. So let me show you how you can make both of those. So for the first one, let's just drag in our A-roll, and then we're going to drag in our B-roll over top. Now, of course, we don't need these full clips, so I'm just going to trim them down with Command B or Control B on your keyboard and then delete the excess footage. So the next thing we will need is, in order to create that white border that we saw, that vertical line, we're going to come into Media, and then we'll come down to Library, and we're going to look for a background, and specifically a white background, and that's going to serve as our border in between the split screen. So we'll simply drag that onto our timeline underneath both our A-roll and B-roll layers. So now that we have all the assets we need, it's time to apply some masking effects to get the split screen effect that we desire. So step number one is to select our B-roll clip, and we're going to want to actually move it over to the left. We're just going to kind of eyeball it for now. We're just going to position it to where we think we might want it. And we'll do the same thing with our A-roll. So for now, I'm just going to mute this track so I can see my A-roll clip. I'm going to select my A-roll clip, and then I'll drag that over to the right side. And I'll, again, just eyeball it to where I think I might want it. Now I will unmute this track. I'll select my B-roll clip once again. And then now we're going to apply our mask, which is up here on the top right. So make sure you're under Video, and then click on Mask. And then there'll be an option for Add Mask. The type of mask that we're going to pick is film strip. And you'll notice by default, it's actually horizontal. We need to change this to vertical. So you'll see this icon right here. You can click and drag, and you can make it vertical. In this case, we'll do negative 90 degrees. And then you'll notice these little options here on the left and right. You can click and drag those to widen it. So just for now, you can kind of widen it and then reposition it to where we think we might want it. And we're going to repeat this process for our A-roll clip as well. So make sure you click on your A-roll clip, and then again, come back up here to Mask and Add Mask, and then Film Strip. And then again, drag this to make it 90 degrees or negative 90 degrees. And then we'll widen this once again. So now what we have already is an effective split screen. The line is straight up and down, but you'll notice the border is not in between. So we're going to fix that right now. So grab your B-roll. And now what we're going to do is create that sort of slanted vertical line. So what you'll do under rotation is, let's just come in here and we're going to select the whole negative 90 degrees, and we're going to type in negative 75 and then hit enter. And you'll notice now there's a slant. We're going to do that same exact thing for our A-roll. Click on your A-roll clip, come over to rotation, and do negative 75. Now, in order to create the line in between, you kind of have to just drag some of these to the left and to the right, and you'll start to see the line appear. And again, just kind of line it up, use your eye, use your best judgment for how you like it to look. Okay, so let's take a look at the second scenario where we're going to have a black background with white text on top on the left side, and we'll have our A-roll on the right side. So again, we'll come back to Media, we'll just drag our A-roll in, and we'll put it right here on the timeline. We're going to shorten it up quite a bit since we don't need the whole clip. And then the next thing we'll need is a black background. So we'll come into Media, we'll come into Library, Backgrounds, and then there'll be this 6-second black background movie file that we can simply pull in, and we'll just put it right on top, and we'll just trim it to be the same size. So now what we need to do is apply some keyframes in order to create the animation of it sliding in from the left to the right. Now, if you're not familiar with how keyframes work, don't worry about it. If you follow my instructions step by step, you'll be able to emulate what I'm about to show you. So with your black background selected, just drag your playhead to the very beginning and make sure you're on Video and then Basic. And you'll notice these little diamond-shaped options here on the far right. These are your keyframe options, and each one correlates to a specific parameter on the left of it. So in this case, where it says position, we're going to use keyframes for position in this example. So we're going to apply a keyframe at the very beginning, and you'll notice down here a little white diamond showed up. And then what we'll do is we'll kind of move our playhead forward a couple frames, and we'll add one more keyframe as well. So what we have is two keyframes, and these are going to be responsible for the animation of the black background coming in from the left to the right. Now, with the second keyframe selected, just make sure you click on it. You'll notice it's selected because it'll be teal in color. You're then simply going to drag the black background to wherever you think you want it in the frame. So this is about halfway in. Once that's set, you're going to come all the way over to the first keyframe, and we're going to drag this completely off the screen. And you'll notice straight away what this is doing, and I'll show you. I'm going to drag the playhead from left to right, is it's slowly going to bring in that black background right to the location that we had selected on that second keyframe. So this already is half the animation that we're going for. Now, the second thing we need to do is move my A roll over from the center of the frame to the right of the frame. Because as you see the black background coming in, it covers my face, and that's not the effect we want. So we're going to do something very similar with the A roll clip selected. So once again, we're going to apply a keyframe with the A roll clip selected at the very beginning. And then we're going to also put another keyframe roughly where the keyframe is here on the background. And then with the second keyframe selected, and again, it's teal, we're just going to drag the A roll all the way to the right. And we're, again, just going to eyeball it to wherever we think it looks good. And this is actually going to be the majority of the animation. You can see right here as I scrub through it, the black background comes in from the left, the A roll starts to shift over to the right, and then by the time we get here, they're in their final and locked position for the rest of the clip. So let's play it back and see how it looks. Looks pretty good to me. Now, as we get to the end of the clip, we're going to want to undo the animation. So again, we're going to need to put some keyframes in. So we will apply a keyframe right here on the black background. And then we'll do another one right at the end here. And in this case, this keyframe is already in the correct position. So all we have to do is come over to this second keyframe and move it all the way off the screen. And you'll notice here it is animating off the screen. Now we have to do the same thing with our A-roll clip. So we will click on that and we'll hit another keyframe for position. And then we'll again try to line up another keyframe right underneath here. So we'll select our second keyframe, the one all the way over to the right, and we'll just simply click and drag our A-roll to the center of the screen. So now as you can see, the black background is now shifting back over to the left, and our A-roll is also shifting over to the left. So let's play that back and see what it looks like. So I think it looks pretty good. Now the last thing on this is a little bit more of an advanced way of making it look a little bit nicer. What you can do on your keyboard, once you have your clip selected, you can do Option K. That will bring up this option here for you to actually adjust the line or the curvature of the keyframe movement. So you'll notice that this shift from left to right is pretty straight. It's pretty linear. But what we can do to make it look a little more smooth is do an auto curve for each of these keyframes. So once you have this selected, you'll come over here on the right. This middle option says auto curve. When you click on that, you'll notice that the line is no longer straight and now has a curve to it. And we're going to want to do that for each keyframe. And again, that's going to create this nice little curve where things kind of speed up, slow down, and then speed up again. And if we do that on the outro animation, and then if we do it also on our black background, and again, hit Option K to get rid of the menu. Now, when we play it back, you'll notice that the animations are quite a bit smoother and less choppy. Now, of course, the final step is to add in any text that we want. So from here, we can come up to text on the top left, click on default text, drag it onto the timeline where we want to position it. We can type in whatever we want to convey to our viewer, pick our font, position it, resize it, and then we'll just reposition all of our different tips. Again, if we want, we can change the font. And then one other thing too, just to kind of make it look a little bit nicer, is you can select all of your text and you can line them up by using the center align option right here. And then you can evenly space it vertically right here. And now what you have is a really good looking text section on the left side of the screen that adds some visual diversity, a little bit of movement, and it helps reinforce any points that you're trying to convey in your video. And while static text can be functional, you would definitely be missing out if you didn't use tip number 2, animating your text. And by the way, if you like these CapCut quick tips, be sure to hit the subscribe button below and let me know what tips you want to learn about in future videos. Okay, back to it. So animating your text adds even further to the overall look and feel of your final edit by adding some additional motion and visual diversity that static text just can't provide. Now, with your text selected, you can come up to the animations tab on the top right, and you can, in bulk, apply different animation effects to all of your text at once if you choose to. But I recommend using a little bit of variety to make sure you're kind of keeping it fresh and interesting for your viewer. So, as an example, for this important text box here at the top, we're just going to select this box. We'll come into animation, and there's both an in and out animations, meaning what does it do when it comes into frame and what does it do when it comes out of frame. A lot of folks like the typewriter effect. So you can click on typewriter and then you can see what it looks like as it comes in. And of course, with any animation, you can adjust the duration as well right down here. By default, it's half of a second. You can certainly make that a little bit longer. And then for our tips, we're going to do a different animation. I like bounce left. So let's see how this looks. Now, of course, the animation for important maybe was a little bit too long. It didn't finish before tip number 1 came in, so we can certainly shorten that. And then of course, we can just drag our tips out a little bit back to make sure that they're not overlapping. So I think that looks pretty good. Now let's apply an out animation. I'm going to do the same out animation for all of them. One thing I like to do with animations is I tend to stick to the same maybe 2 or 3 text animations for the majority of my videos. And what you can do if there's ones that you really like that you want to use repeatedly, say for example, this pop down option, you can click on the little star to add it as a favorite, and then that will show up in your favorites for future use. It's a really quick and easy way to get to the ones that you like. Now, as a general tip, just to keep your project a little bit more orderly and tidy and easier to work with, you can take all of these clips that we've just worked with and combine them into a compound clip, which lets you move things around a little bit easier and it prevents you from accidentally making mistakes on things that you've already finalized your edit on. So, for example, if we simply click and drag all of our clips and we right click and do create compound clip, it then consolidates everything into a single clip on a single track. And if we play it back, you'll see all of the animations, all of the text, all of the keyframes working just like we had designed them. Okay, you've now got a few basic editing tips under your belt and you're ready to learn more. So I highly recommend checking out the video right over here for more beginner-friendly tips to get your videos looking next level.